Get my 6.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the planet that typically doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with homesteading whatsoever. Homesteading off the grid. Yeah, you see I've got Piglet back. I guess the last video you saw me in, I was probably driving my wife's brand new Mercedes Benz I just bought her. Paid cash, brah, because I don't do car payments, brah. Well, that's a fun car to drive, but man, she can keep that Benz. I'm keeping Piglet. Yeah. So listen, I'm here today to talk about something that's kind of boggled my mind for a long time. My whole life. And I'll be 52 this fall. And it's a question. And I'm going to ask you this question, and many of you have probably asked yourselves this question and other people. Why is it that it seems some people have tons of drive and ambition and work ethic and motivation, and they get up at the butt crack of dawn, or even before that, dark 30 as we called it in the military, and they go out there and they produce and they produce and they produce until the day's end, hit the bed tired, and just get a great night's sleep, because hey, the best reward for a hard day's work, in my opinion, is a good night's sleep. You know what I mean? But then you have other people who are just incorrigible. They're unmotivatable. They have no drive, no ambition, no work ethic. They have no desire to go out there and kick the world's ass and take names. And they're content to let someone else or something else take care of them, provide for them. Be it a family member with money, be it a spouse that maybe has that drive or goes out there and works and, brings home the bacon and fries it up in a pan and feeds it to them. Like, here comes a plain adult person that can't take care of yourself. Or maybe the government entitlement programs. And I don't mean Social Security, because we pay into that. You better believe we're deserving of that. I'm talking about other forms of entitlements, and you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to list them here, right? What's the difference? Well, I feel a little more qualified to answer that question now because of a question many of you folks have been asking me in the comment section, and I'm going to give you the God's honest answer to that. I'm just going to be brutally honest with you, and I hope you're not offended. I think one of the things you've enjoyed about this channel in the last going on a decade now is that I've always been honest with you, all right? But first, before I give you the question and the answer, I'm going to point out this video is being, oh my God, this thing's heavy. And look, I work out at the gym, brah. Look at that. That's real. Well, that's gym muscles. That ain't real muscles. Real muscles come from splitting wood and throwing up hay in the barn. I got me some good gym muscles going on, brah. Because I got enough firewood to last for the next 2 winters. I ain't cutting hay around here, brah. But anyway, this video is sponsored by Vevor, and they've got this awesome insulated screwdriver set that has like 128 million pieces in it. This thing literally weighs 30 pounds, folks. I'm just going to show you, give me a minute, just a minute or less of showing this, because hey, it's a sponsored video, sponsored product, and then we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of it. But what I like about Vevor, their motto or their mantra is tough tools, half the price. It's fact. Now I get them for free, of course, for doing the demo videos, but this is their most massive insulated screwdriver set. It's about $190 from their website, and I'll put the link in the description box below. If you were to buy a competitor's product, you're looking at $500. And something I'll point out about Vevor is that they do not lack in quality. Now, I'm not an electrician. All of these tools, and they've got slats and slats of tools in here. It's like a 128-piece set. They're insulated. Now, if you were to be working on electricity, and mind you, I'm not an electrician, so don't take my word as gospel. This will protect you to up to 1,000 volts, I think, worth of shock. Listen, but when I need electrical work done, I hire an actual electrical guy because I don't want to get electrocuted. But with that said, look at the quality. For instance, here's one of these types of wrenches. Y'all know I don't know what they call these things, It's one of these types of wrenches. Despite the fact that the handles are all heavily insulated to protect you from about 1,000 volts worth of shocking, the tool itself is actually very high quality. Vevor's been sponsoring me. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Going on 6 years now. And any product they've ever sent me during that time that I've demoed still works. They've got all different sizes. It still works and we still use it. And now this particular package, a buddy of mine wanted it. And I said, hey man, I can get that for you. I just got to do a demo video. He will use it because he is an electrician. And I hope he's happy with this, because look at these wire cutters. I'm telling you what, these insulated Vevor wire cutters are better. Well, I was going to say they're better than the wire cutters I have, but I have myself another pair of Vevor wire cutters down there that are just as good. The difference is, maybe I could cut an electrical line with this and not get electrocuted. With the others, I couldn't. But I mean, it's got everything, different size wire cutters. Here's some of these ones, needle nose pliers. What? I actually knew the name of the tool. Can you believe it? Might not be as dumb as I try to make you think I am. Comes with the different, well, now I am. Different shaped ends of these, and then the traditional, man, this thing is awesome. Oh my God, I might not give this to my buddy. It's got, like, look at that. Bam. Got that one. I mean, it's loaded. So I'll put the link in the video. You're going to pay less than half for this Vevor insulated screwdriver and wire cutter needle nose plier tool set than you would pay for any leading brand. It's got pockets to carry your cell phone in, your glasses, your, whatever you're into that fits in that. I'll leave it at that. The Lord's let us be praised. All right, so anyway, in the paraphernalia you need to partake of that with. All right, so anyway, but just don't get electrocuted, guys. Let's get back to the topic of hand. What is it that makes some people go out there and just bust their backsides till the sun goes down, while others are content to sit around on their backsides all day, never leave their house, never leave home, and let someone else provide for them? One word answer. I'm going to give you a second, see if you can figure it out. And I'm going to back it up with scientific evidence and real world experience. Do you give up? That word is necessity. Necessity. Been on this rock for more than half a century. Hope to see another half century, because I love it. I love life. I love all that it has to offer, because I'm one of those people that go out there and live life. I don't sit around and let life live me. But it boils down to necessity. There are people who need to go out there and bust their asses in order to make ends meet, in order to feed their children, in order to feed themselves. And so guess what? They do. And then there are people who don't. So guess what they do? They don't. Now, at first glance, you think, well, that's our government's fault. They just give all these handouts, these EBT cards and all that stuff. Then you get these people that are entitled, and they get everything for nothing, and they just go on and clamor and complain about how they're deserving of so much more. Yeah, I would agree with you. They're out there. We all know those folks. But let me tell you about another sector of entitled people who are just as, they're equals with those folks. These are people who are born into families of means who provide constantly for them so that they don't have to provide for themselves. And listen, at the end of the day, what a lot of folks in society call the welfare bomb is no worse or better than the privileged, maybe a lot of folks might call them a trust fund baby. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody who's poor doesn't work and expects the government to take care of them through our tax dollars. And it doesn't mean that everybody that's born into wealth is a lazy bum that looks for mommy and daddy's trust or great-great-granddaddy's trust to take care of them. No, there are people from both sides who want to work and go out there and they bust their butt and they make a difference. But basically it boils down to necessity. You've probably heard it said that necessity is the mother of invention. When people need something, it's a great motivator. It really lights a fire under their backside. You know what I'm saying? So here's the question a lot of you have been asking me in the comment section. You've been emailing me this. You've been like, why don't you make videos every day like you used to? We love your channel and blah, blah, blah. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, and this is a part that I hope you can appreciate. I've been doing this since 2018, and I went for 5 or 6 years without missing a freaking day. I made videos every day, while at the same time burning my candle on both ends, because I'm one of those people that needed it. If I didn't go out there and bust my butt and work for what I had, I wasn't going to have it. And it's not just me. I have a wife and a son that depends on me, and an Internal Revenue Service and the Virginia State Department of Taxation who depends on me heavily. So I had to go out there and I had to do the work. And I got burnt out, and I was burnt out for a long time, but I continued to do the work because I needed the results of my efforts. I needed it. I don't come from wealth. My parents quit high school. I grew up in a mobile home in West Virginia. I have no relationship with my family of origin because they were toxic and abusive, and the best thing I ever did was distance myself from them more than 10 years ago. Despite the difficulties I've had in the last decade, the last 10 years has been the happiest years of my life because I've not been being dragged down by toxic, dysfunctional, abusive people, right? Think about it. Remember that cannonball, you're drowning in water. It's like you either got to let go or you're going to sink and drown. It's like being dragged by a rope. You either let go or you be dragged. I finally decided to let go of the cannonball and the rope, and whew, what a difference that made. That's probably a little TMI, but the point is, I don't come for money, brah. So anything I've ever had in life, I've had to go out there and get on my own. All right? I couldn't depend on others to take care of me. Now, there's a certain dignity in that, right? There's a certain level of respect we would think we get from our peers by doing that, right? Well, two things. Number one, no one cares. No one gives a crap. They don't care. Number two, am I any better off than the guy who was born maybe into a family that was supportive and loving and did help take care of them and provide for them and maybe had the means to be able to make life a lot easier? No. At the end of the day, I'm really not any better off than any of my, than any deadbeat who doesn't work, doesn't earn, because they don't have to, because they have someone to provide for them. So as far as necessity goes, the answer to that question, they don't have to worry about it because their needs are met. So really, we're equal, and I can kind of answer that question for you now. This is why I've not been making so many videos lately, because I've put in the work, I've done the time. This isn't my only source of income. We are closing in on 2 million followers and subscribers across our social media platforms. You probably watch me or follow me on Facebook, Sick Twisted Humor. Oh my God, the amount of revenue we generate there in a month, it's more than the average American household income, which, by the way, depends upon 2 income earners to make that income. It's just crazy. It's a crazy number. I would tell you, but you would probably hate me and never watch me again. But here's the deal. And I can finally relate to these ne'er-do-wellers who have sat on their asses and let other people take care of them for life because they never had to go out there and do anything. It's really hard to motivate yourself to go out there and do anything when you don't have to. And for the last few months, I haven't had to come up here and make YouTube videos because I'm making 100K a month on Facebook. Now listen, I don't say that to be arrogant. I say that to prove a point. I think for the first time in my life, maybe I get it a little more than I don't. And here's where I'm going to back it up with scientific evidence. One of my favorite authors, because FYI, in case you've forgotten, because you probably have, because I haven't been doing it in a while, I'm actually a writer. I write books. You can get my books on Amazon. The link for all that's in the description box below. One of my favorite writers is a guy named Michael Crichton. You might remember Michael Crichton from Jurassic Park, from Congo, from the TV show ER. Michael Crichton, George Clooney, the great actor, attributes Michael Crichton for giving him a career. George Clooney is one of the few actors that started out on TV, i.e. ER, and then made it big into the movies as an A-lister, okay? So Michael Crichton went to Harvard Medical School, was fully trained and qualified to be a doctor, but he never practiced medicine. You know why? Because Michael Crichton was passionate about writing. He wanted to be a writer. And so that's why when you read his books, I mean, that's why he was qualified to create ER, one of the most successful television shows. He was the writer of that show. And then shows like Jurassic Park, or the movie Jurassic Park. I've read every single Michael Crichton novel he's ever written. There's like close to 20 of them, 20-ish. He died of throat cancer about 10 years ago. He wrote a book, and I can't remember which one it was. I should have Googled it, but at the end, Michael Crichton always gives these awesome synopsises at the end of his novels where he talks about the science and the history that motivated him to write the book. And he wrote about how society and people working, the amount of time they put into work, what they do, the effort they exert, he related it to the caveman. And he said this. He said, basically, if you go back 30,000 years, which is almost to the origin of modern man, basically, back then, men, who were the hunters, the gatherers, the providers, they had to put in about 20 hours a week to have their basic needs met. So they'd get up in the morning, they'd kill the deer. Or, wait a minute, this is social media. We got to watch our terminology. We live in a very, easily offended society. They would dispatch a deer in the morning. Hey, they were done, brah. Or if they went out and picked 4 quarts of berries or caught a couple fish, they were done, brah. You know, picked enough leaves and stuff to get the family through the day. They were done. And then what did they do? Well, they just kind of sat around and took it easy. They didn't push themselves. They didn't have a 401k. They were trying to max out their contribution, every year. Or, traditional IRA, like those of us who don't work for companies, because we understand that it's pretty stupid to spend the best 30 to 40 years of your life to make someone else rich. So we work for ourselves to make ourselves rich. They didn't have a SEP, self-employed pension plan, where you can contribute either $66,000 a year or up to a certain percentage of your income. They didn't worry about any of that stuff. They worried about getting their needs for the day met. And then they just chillaxed. They watched their 22 children play and their 4 wives argue amongst each other and whatever. But you know what I'm saying, right? You get me, right? Well, the fact of the matter is that today, the same thing can be done in the same amount of time. Now, I read this many, many years ago, and I thought, that makes sense. And so I do it. So I do limit the amount of time I work. And so I focus more on production and quality of my work rather than quantity of my work and being busy all day. And I've talked about this in other videos. So many people, especially yuppie types, like middle class, upper middle class Americans with really nice educations, they think, oh, I'm so busy, I'm doing this, taking the kids here, dropping off there, got this activity, I belong to this club, got 3 sports, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, like, how much money did you make? Wow, that's not that much. They're busy, but they're not productive. See, there's a difference. Most people don't understand the difference between being busy and being productive. All right? So anyway, I focus on being productive for about 2 hours a day. Then I sit back and I relax and enjoy watching my one kid and my one wife argue with each other. So I can kind of relate to my ancestors, right? But I mean, here's the deal. I kind of get it now because I don't have to come out here and make YouTube videos every day. I literally would never have to do anything again ever, and I would always be okay because I've worked so hard in years past to get to this point. But now listen, we're going back to the original conversation. I know many, many, many people, my peers. I'm going to be 52 this fall. I know many other 52-year-old men who've never done anywhere near the amount of work I've done, and they're just as comfortable or more than me. How's that possible? Well, because they came from backgrounds where they didn't have to go out and do it. They had other people that took care of them. They had other people that provided for them, families with money. Or we can look at the people that figured out how to, built the system, get on the dole, as our friends across the pond would say, and just, who's better off? At the end of the day, and as you can tell by the crickets coming out and the sun setting behind the Blue Ridge Mountains here in Virginia, this is the end of the day. What are we both doing? We're sitting around in comfort. Whether we worked for it and earned it, whether we were born into it via an affluent family, or whether we get it given to us from government entitlement programs. The programs that are set up in order to buy votes. Hey, vote for me and I'll give your kids free lunches at school. I'll give you EBT cards, and I'll give you HUD housing, and blah, blah, blah. And you think I'm judging. And you also want to say, well, it's all about background, it's about environment. Let me give you some more examples. I grew up in the same household with the same parents as my siblings. There's 3 of them, and I'm not here to bash them. 3 of us went to college, worked our asses off. One of us was smart with money and is now pretty much retired. 2 are still working. They're getting there. They're doing okay. And then 1 was given everything, never had to do anything. And that one is a welfare bum. They get everything via government entitlement programs. They intentionally make sure to be underemployed and underpaid so they can qualify for every benefit out there. They know the numbers. Crazy. All right. And now this is bringing me more to the heart of the matter, because I'm going to get to the heart of the matter right now. Okay. Because the question we got to ask ourselves is this: it's not about us. It's about what we leave behind, and it's about those who are important to us, i.e. our children. Okay. So when we think about our children, you think, well, Crazy Lake, you're rich now. You just kind of pretty much told us that. Don't you want to make sure your son has it easier than you? Don't you want to make sure your son never joins the army and goes off to war like you did and has to fight terrorists like you did in Iraq? Don't you want to make sure your son never gets stuck in a third world country and can't get out like you did when you were in the Philippines for 6 years on an expired visa and you had no one that would help you? Don't you want to make it easier for your son to just inherit land? Unlike you, who had to buy it, Don't you want your son to just inherit assets, all these stocks and stuff? You remember 3 weeks ago, I told you to buy NVIDIA. I put a lot of money in that biz niche at $100 a share. She's at 141 right now. Bruh, I just made more money in 3 weeks on one stock to buy a lot of y'all's houses you're living in. All right. But again, that comes from years and years, and I used to be a stockbroker. My first job out of college was, I did that for 8 years. And I've been patient. I've always added and I've always contributed. It's not like I just had this big sum I could put in there. This comes from years and years of effort, all right? But this is what's going on. Well, part of me, the part that loves my son unconditionally, wants to say, yeah, I want to make things so easy for my son that he never has to know discomfort. So he never has to know what it's like to sleep in the desert. The Arabian desert, which spreads through Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and up through Iraq, and feel the scorpions crawling across his face. I never want him to know what it's like to be asleep in the jungles of the Philippines when the floods come and you're jumping up on the couch trying not to get washed out of your house, and at the other end of that couch there's an 8-foot-long cobra who you didn't know was living in your wall. That's an honest-to-God experience we had when we lived over there, okay? I would like to say, well, yeah, I'd like to protect my son from all that. But let me tell you what I'd also like to protect my son from, and that is being a complete deadbeat piece of shit. Because that's what people who always have things given to them and always have their comforts laid out for them on a silver platter or red carpet or just whatever, that's what they end up being. Now, we can go back and say, well, aren't we envious of them being able to just have their needs met, their needs met and not really have to do anything for it? We'd all want to be in that position, right? Yeah. But what if it's our children? Because here's the danger of being in that position. When shit hits the fan, or if I die or my assets get seized because they determined I was training certain people somewhere like they tried to do with Hemingway when he was hanging out in the Spanish Civil War, and whatever. I don't know how well you know your history, but I've been questioning about crap. And let's just say the government decides to take everything. Well, what happens to my kid then? If I've raised him to always be dependent upon me and what I can give him, he's never going to be able to do for himself. And if those times were to come, he would starve. He would perish. He would not be able to take care of himself. And you're like, oh, that's drastic. That's extreme. If your needs are met and you've got people that provide for you, what's wrong with that? You're just jealous because you had to work for your millions, whereas other people were born into it. Well, no. I'm going to tell you a story right now. It's called The Tale of Two Brothers. This is a true story, and it involves a very, very close friend of mine, somebody that I think very highly of, and I think that by the time you hear the end of this story, you're going to think very highly of him too. And I'm not going to use his name, but I don't think he'd mind me telling this story. The Tale of Two Brothers. So I have a friend, a very good friend, who I've been friends with for about 10 years, and who I didn't know for the first 5 years of our friendship. He's not rich, but when mommy and daddy die, he's going to be really rich. It came up one time when we were having a very similar conversation to the one I'm having with you right now. Now, it turns out this young man, he's my wife's age. He's 37, 38. He had a brother about 3 or 4 years younger than him. Notice I'm saying the word had. This is past tense, okay? They were born into a family where the mother was a trust fund baby. Her great-grandfather, I think, was very industrious and prosperous during the Industrial Revolution. He created and invented something that is in your house right now, but I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to out my buddy. Okay, so she comes from that. She never worked a day in her life. Never worked a day in her life. Never had to. And then his father was a lawyer. He came up from the working class. He never had anything that he didn't work for, much like myself, okay? Hey, I am where I am today. I'm happy to be where I am. I'm proud to have gotten myself to where I am, even though I'm no better off than the welfare bum down at the projects or the trust fund baby out here whose mommy and daddy are still, even though he's in his 50s or 60s, are still paying his way for him. I'm no better off than them. But I have a sense of accomplishment that neither of those bastards have. And that might not mean anything to them because they'll never know it, but it means something to me. And it means something to y'all that have it too. And I know what you're talking about because I know if you watch this channel, I know the demographics of my audience. Y'all are workers, you're go-getters. You'd rather go out there and work for what you got than have it given to you. So you understand that sense of pride you have from having gone out there and gotten it on your own, right? Well, this was this guy's dad. Well, I guess originally when they got together, they thought, well, you're a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, this is going to work. Well, the difference was one was born into it and the other was self-made. It didn't work because their ideology and their mentality about everything, especially money, was different. Listen, when you work to earn what you have, you buy a $732 mini bike. Of course, this one was given to me by a woman that actually, one of my Vevor contacts. It's not a Vevor product, but I was like, do you all have this? She's like, no, but I know someone who does, and I can get it for you as long as you keep sponsoring our products. And I'm like, yeah, bro, keep going to the gym too, right? So, but anyway, that's a $732 bike. I couldn't bring myself to buy a $15,000 four-wheeler or UTV, which I want, but now I'll buy my wife a $50,000+ SUV, Mercedes-Benz SUV and pay cash because what's important to me is not the thing, it's the person or the people. And my wife, I would give her the world because she's given me her world. And so I would do the same in return. You know what I mean? But for me, a $700 little 2 wheels with a lawnmower engine is good enough for me, all right? Well, this is what it's like. This is the difference between self-made people and born into it people. So there was that conflict between the relationship. It ended, they divorced. The boys ended up staying with the mom, right? So there were 2 boys. This is a tale of 2 brothers. Well, everything was just given to them. They went to a private school. You know, nobody that went to the school was of the lower classes. The lawn was mowed by a lawn care service, even though it wasn't big. The house was cleaned by a maid, even though it wasn't big. The pool was cleaned by, you know, everything was done for them. They didn't have to do anything for themselves. Well, my friend, my buddy, he didn't like where that was going. He thought, man, this isn't going anywhere good, because if the day comes that, you know, this money that's just there runs out, I'm kind of screwed, because I'm not gonna know how to do anything for myself. Now, he wasn't a big fan of his dad, and he actually told me his dad was an a-hole. But he said he could appreciate the fact that his dad worked and earned and provided for himself. And he did so very well. I mean, his dad, after the divorce, he told me it was a turbulent time. He lost. It was terrible, but he built himself back up. And in a few short years, he became a self-made millionaire again. And I can't help but tell you the story at this time about Henry Ford. At one point, Henry Ford, who did not invent the automobile, what he invented was the assembly line. Okay, but Henry Ford, when he was the richest man in the world, they asked him, some smug reporter said, hey, Mr. Ford, you're the richest man in the world, but if you were to lose everything you had right now, what would you do? He laughed at the reporter and he said, listen, if I lost everything I have, I'd make it back in half the time. He says, because I know what not to do and I know what to do more of. And as somebody who's kind of run that route a couple times, I totally understand what he means. I understand what he's saying. So anyway, this guy, when he was 15 or 16 years old, he decided he wanted to go live with his father. And he told his mother, he says, Mom, I love you. I love the life you're providing for me, but I want to go live with Dad because I want to learn how to work and earn and provide for myself. So he did that. He moved with his father. The other boys stayed back home with Mommy, who gave him everything, made sure, if things got too hard, if he played a sport and the coach yelled, that mean old coach yelled, raised his voice. Oh no, she'd jump in there with her helicopter and come down on the ladder. It's called helicopter parents. Get him out of that situation. Oh no. And if he ever started a problem with other kids, because he's run his mouth being a pretentious little privileged person, oh no, Mommy, jump in there and get him out of there. Oh no. Well, my buddy went to live with his dad. He saw his dad get up every morning, go to work, come home exhausted, drink his gin and tonic, and pass out and do the next thing the next day. All right? And he saw him work, earn, accumulate, provide. Okay? While his brother's back home being taken care of by other people who are helping him, who are just providing for him, who are just, giving him hands out. So he doesn't have to go out there and do anything on his own, doesn't have to get his nails dirty or break a sweat. No, you just, Well, my buddy, when he got out of high school, he could have gone to any university on the planet, have it paid for, because his father was once again a self-made millionaire by this time. He'd recovered from the divorce. He'd made his money back. Mommy always had it. She was a trust fund baby. He could have gone to any college, anywhere in the world he wanted, but he didn't. He said, you know what? He says, I really like the fact that I'm learning from my dad, who works and earns and provides. I want to learn more. He was getting turned on by learning how to be self-sufficient and independent. So you know what he did? He enlisted in the United States Army. Mind you, this was shortly after the attacks of 9/11. He knew when he enlisted, he was going to go to war. He enlisted anyway because he wasn't a coward. He was a real man, and he wanted to become even more of a real man. So he enlisted in the Army, And like myself, I enlisted after 9/11. Well, I enlisted because it pissed me off and they knocked my tires down. I wanted to go tell them what I thought about it. I went into the infantry as an enlisted man, and so did my friend. All right. He worked his way up to the rank of sergeant. He deployed to Iraq during the heavy fighting period. He deployed to Mindanao, Philippines. Excuse me, the southernmost island of the Philippines. It's where my wife dearly's from. It's where his wife's from. It's how they met. He was down there around the same time I was down there. He was training Filipino Army Special Forces to be able to take the war to the terrorist networks that were down there at the time. Abu Sayyaf, Moro Islamic Liberation Front, who goes by MILF. I bet they regret that acronym. And Muammar Gaddafi, you probably didn't know this, was planning on escaping there. Well, let's just say that my buddy and I made sure he never made it safely. And others. He became a man. My friend became a man. He followed the modeling of his father, who worked and earned and provided. Not the modeling of his mother, who just always had it, and who always went out of her way to make sure that herself and the other boy who stayed with her were comfortable. Made sure they were comfortable, never wanted for anything. Wouldn't leave the house if the temperature was 5 degrees plus or minus, above or below, whatever the thermostat was set to. Made sure that, it was the two of them in their 5,000 square foot McMansion, that somebody else came in to clean the bathrooms or take out the trash. However big their lawn was, somebody else cut it and mowed it, and because that was beneath them, right? Well, my friend's little brother, unfortunately, as it said, idle hands do the devil's work. He got into drugs. He got into drugs heavily. It started out with what I don't feel is a drug. Listen, if you can control it, if you're responsible, and if you can handle it, the Lord's lettuce. But others consider that a gateway drug. Just to give you the other side of the story, and it was for him, and he went further and further and further. Not because, I don't think it's because the Lord's lettuce. I think it's because this dude didn't have nothing else to do but just sit around and be comfortable. Sit around and be comfortable. Mommy and daddy's taking care of everything. He ain't got no bills, ain't got no needs. If he wants that new Benz I just bought my wife, his mommy go buy it for him. So the Lord's lettuce got boring. He went on to harder things. And he began ODing. And what would mommy do? Well, mommy was there to save him. She had that EpiPen, whatever the hell you call it, and brought him back a couple times. But guess what? A few years back, she just wasn't there, and she couldn't bring him back, and he's dead. He's dead. Now, did he die from an overdose? Did he die because he was an addict? Some would say yes. That's probably what the coroner wrote. I would say no. He died because he was enabled to be a worthless piece of shit from a mother that had means, that provided for him so he never had to work, earn, and provide for himself. She overmothered, didn't let the father even be in the picture, so there was no fathering whatsoever going on. It cost that young man his life. He was 32 when he died. My friend, his brother, my friend who decided he wanted to be a man and he wanted to learn how to work, earn, and provide for himself, he is a very high-level, high-ranking CIA agent. He travels the world keeping you and me safe, keeping you and I safe from stuff that if he were to tell you what he just protected us from, you would laugh and maybe accuse him of being a fearmonger or watching too many movies, No, what he does is real. And the things he protects protects us from, they're real threats. But because he's a man who works and earns and provides, he protects the free world, him and hundreds of men and women just like him. So that's the danger. Sure, the answer to the original question is, wouldn't it be great if we could all just sit back and chillax and enjoy having our needs met and not having to work for it? Yeah, in an ideal world, that would be perfect, wouldn't it? But guess what? We do not now, nor have we ever, nor will we ever in the future live in an ideal world. There will always be the need for those who are able to work, earn, and provide. We will always come out on top. And again, if you're comfortable because you've got someone that provides for you, that's all well and good. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And somebody who's self-made, I'm not any better off than you are if you were born into it. But when I think of that tale of two brothers and I think about how I want my son to turn out, I'll tell you this, I'm not going to make my son as comfortable as you might be making yours. We've all got to remain a little bit feral. Because in wild times, if we're not wild ourselves, we'll be eaten alive. I hope to God you got something out of this one. I'll see you for more next time.